In the world of One Piece, it's always exciting to discover what a character's bounty is. They serve as a gauge to a pirate's infamy and how much of a threat they present to the world government. Now, bounties don't exactly translate to how powerful a character is. Just because character A has a higher bounty than character B doesn't mean that character A is stronger. Bounties simply serve as an indicator as to how much of a danger the world government perceives an individual to be. Thus, the higher the bounty, the greater the danger. And we've seen nobody have more increases to their bounty than Monkey D. Luffy. So in this video, we'll be going over the evolution of Luffy's bounties and how he obtained them. Before we begin, I post One Piece content to this channel, and I would appreciate it if you subscribe if you like One Piece. If you want to help feed the YouTube's algorithmic beast, then feel free to like this video or drop a comment. With that out the way, let's begin. Upon beginning his journey as a pirate, Luffy encountered several of the most powerful adversaries the East Blue had to offer. Buggy the Clown, who had a 15 million berry bounty, Captain Kuro with a 16 million berry bounty, Don Krieg, who went to the Grand Line before returning to the East Blue, had a 17 million berry bounty, and finally, Arlong the Saw, who had the highest bounty within the East Blue, coming in at 20 million berries. Although the East Blue is considered the weakest of the oceans, these were the best the East had to offer, yet Luffy steamrolled all of them. He was now set on entering the Grand Line, but before he even reached his destination, he received his first bounty set at 30 million berries. Nowadays, a 30 million berry bounty is laughable, but at the time, and for someone from the East Blue, it is an astronomical feat. Luffy asserted his dominance by defeating the head honchos in the East Blue, then received the greatest bounty, which puts the rest of them to shame. Immediately after entering the Grand Line, the Straw Hats encountered agents from a criminal organization known as Baruch Works. Among them was Princess Nefertari Vivi, who was attempting to expose Baruch Works' leader, and because of this, she became their prime target. The Straw Hats sheltered her from her pursuers, the goal being to return Vivi to Alabasta, her home country. The leader of Baruch Works was the warlord Crocodile, who was set on taking over Alabasta in order to establish a military nation and get his hands on the powerful ancient weapon known as Pluton. Although Vivi made it back to her country, Crocodile had instigated a civil war, but Luffy and the Straw Hats were keen on helping her reclaim her kingdom before it was too late. Luffy thought he could handle Crocodile, but this was the first time in this series we've seen someone destroy Luffy in a fight. Because Crocodile ate a Logia devil fruit, there was not a single thing Luffy could do to harm him, and he would have died had Nico Robin, Crocodile's closest ally, not saved him. Fortunately, Luffy had learned he can negate Crocodile's intangibility if he applies water. He fared better in their second fight, but Luffy lost yet again. It wasn't until their third and final fight that Luffy prevailed against the warlord, thus putting an end to his plan to take over a kingdom. Luffy had done the unthinkable. An upstart pirate who has started his pirating career only about a couple months ago has just defeated a warlord of the sea. The world government didn't want a pirate taking credit for defeating someone who was technically working for them, so they fabricated a story that it was the Marines who stopped Crocodile. Although that did not stop them from reassessing Luffy's bounty. Post-Alabasta, Luffy's bounty increased to 100 million berries, exceeding that of Crocodile's. Once Crocodile was dealt with, the Straw Hats continued their journey with Nico Robin at their side. She would eventually play a critical role as the reason for Luffy's next bounty raise. The world government wants her dead and would stop at nothing to silence her since she can read the poneglyphs, thus can discover the history behind the Void Century. So, the world government had Cypher Pole 9 capture her when the Straw Hats landed on Water 7, then escorted her to Enies lobby where she would be executed. Luffy did his most daring action yet. Alongside the rest of his crew, Galley Law, and the Frankie family, they stormed through the Judicial Island made up of 10,000 agents from both the world government and Marines. All of Cypher Pole 9's agents were defeated, Enies lobby was utterly annihilated after a buster call, and the Straw Hats successfully rescued Robin without suffering any casualties of their own. The mission was a massive success to say the least. Thus, Luffy's bounty was tripled to 300 million berries. As Luffy pressed on, he defeated Gecko Moria, another warlord, but His bounty didn't increase this time, most likely because it wasn't public knowledge that Gecko Moria was defeated, and the world government sees Moria as the weakest link in the warlord system, so they probably weren't concerned about raising his bounty. But after Bartholomew Kuma separated the Straw Hats, Luffy heard that his brother Ace was imprisoned in Impel Down and was scheduled to be executed by the Marines. Luffy snuck into the prison and charged forward to free his brother, but Luffy was too late in rescuing him. So then he allied with Ivankov of the Revolutionary Army, two warlords, his previous foe Buggy, and many other prisoners to cause the first ever mass outbreak Impel Down had ever known. Together, they traveled to Marineford to prevent Ace's execution and fight alongside the Whitebeard pirates. On top of that, it was broadcasted to the world that aside from being an upcoming pirate, Luffy was also the sworn brother to Ace, who is the son of the Pirate King, as well as the son of Monkey D. Dragon, the leader of the Revolutionary Army and is the most wanted man in the world. Luffy was now the catalyst for creating chaos on the two strongholds of the Marines. Ace died protecting Luffy, which had such a traumatic effect on him that he was left mentally broken. Luffy would have died after his brother's death if his allies did not fight so hard to protect him. The Whitebeard pirates had no choice but to retreat, and Luffy managed to escape thanks to the help of his allies. Whitebeard and Ace were now dead, and the dust had settled. Realizing that he and his crew were not strong enough to travel to the New World yet, Luffy and his crew went off the radar for 2 years to train. But that didn't stop him from gaining one last increase to his bounty for the time being. Another 100 million berries was tacked onto him, now putting him at 400 million berries. After 2 years had passed, the Straw Hats reunited. They then formed an alliance with Trafalgar Law, with the goal of taking down the Emperor Kaido. Before they could challenge him, they faced their greatest challenge yet in the New World when they landed on Dressrosa. This was the homeland of the warlord Don Quixote do Flamingo, who was keen on disposing of them since they captured his accomplice Caesar Clown. Caesar played a vital role in Doflamingo's organization since it was he who created SAD, which was used to create the artificial devil fruits called Smiles. The Smiles were supplied to Kaido to fuel his Zone users' army, and if the Smile fruits were to stop coming in, Kaido would come for Doflamingo, motivating him to return things to normal as soon as possible. Luffy met many people in Dressrosa that came to this island in hopes of obtaining the devil fruit of his late brother. They all started out as enemies, but rallied together when Doflamingo posed as a threat to them all. Once the showdown between Luffy and Doflamingo reached its climax, Luffy revealed his ultimate technique so far, Gear 4th. In this form, Luffy overpowered Doflamingo, saving everyone in Dressrosa and putting an end to his reign. Luffy has defeated not just a warlord, but a man who is also an ex-member of the most elite class on the planet, the Celestial Dragons, meaning he has secrets of theirs they don't want him to leak. So they turn a blind eye to him taking over a country, oppressing its citizens, enslaving people, and being the central figure in the underworld. News was just made that Luffy and the freshly new ex-warlord Law had formed an alliance and they defeated Doflamingo. Ace may have been dead, but Luffy had reunited with his other brother, Sabo, who inherited the devil fruit of their late brother. Sabo is also second in command in the Revolutionary Army, giving Luffy even further connections to them. Additionally, several factions had sworn allegiance to Luffy, giving him 5,640 subordinates to summon if he chooses. Luffy can no longer be considered just an upstart. Now, he has his own army that poses an actual threat to the world government. With another 100 million bounty increase, he was now sitting at 500 million berries. Zou was their next destination to regroup with the rest of their allies, and upon getting there, they befriended the Mink tribe. Luffy and Law intended to head to Wano where they would challenge Kaido, but before they could, Luffy broke off from Law and half of his crew because Sanji had just left the crew in order to marry one of Big Mom's kids. Luffy was determined to get his crewmate back, so he invaded Big Mom's territory, Whole Cake Island, where he was greeted by Charlotte Cracker of the Big Mom Pirates. Keep in mind that Cracker is a member of the Three Sweet Generals, who are the strongest members of the crew aside from Big Mom herself. The battle between Luffy and Cracker was long, but Luffy eventually managed to best Cracker in combat. Then, he formed an alliance with the Fire Tank Pirates and Sanji's family, Germa 66, in order to execute an assassination attempt against Big Mom. Their plan was a stunning failure, forcing them to hightail it out of Big Mom's territory. The Big Mom Pirates were in hot pursuit of their enemies. Meanwhile, Luffy focused his attention on Big Mom's strongest child, Charlotte Katakuri. Although Katakuri initially displayed his powers were relatively similar to Luffy's, and he could do whatever Luffy could but to a greater caliber, Luffy was set on defeating the man with over 1 billion berry bounty. As Luffy's haki developed in their fight, Luffy overcame Katakuri by a hair. He then rendezvoused with his crew. The assassination attempt may have been a failure, but Luffy succeeded in bringing back Sanji to his side and escaped from Whole Cake Island. News of this event reached the world. Luffy defeated 2 sweet generals, ran rampant through Big Mom's territory, and was presented as the ringleader of the alliance he had with the Fire Tank Pirates and Germa 66. Luffy was even dubbed the 5th Emperor of the Sea. This culminated in his bounty skyrocketing to 1.5 billion berries. Finally, we have the last bounty we've seen as of yet. Ever since entering the New World, Luffy had the objective of defeating Kaido. Once he and the rest of the Straw Hats made it to Wano, they were going to see this mission through. Luffy tried to fight Kaido when they first got there, but he was decimated by a single attack. Undeterred, Luffy trained for his rematch with Kaido as the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance plans came to fruition. When the time was right, this alliance raided Kaido's headquarters, where there were great casualties on both sides. Be that as it may, the Beast Pirates' strongest members, such as the Flying Six and the All-Stars, were defeated. Luffy, Zoro, Law, Kid, and Killer momentarily fought alongside each other to take on Kaido and Big Mom. Once they broke off from this fight to engage in their own battles, Law and Kid were left to fight Big Mom while Luffy was left to fight Kaido. Law and Kid tactfully defeated Big Mom, and Luffy continued his fight with Kaido. Although Luffy initially was defeated, this allowed him to awaken his devil fruit, transforming him into the mythical deity Nika. In this state, Luffy overpowered Kaido, marking the end of his tyranny and freeing the citizens of Wano. The monumental defeat of 2 emperors garnered Luffy, Law, and Kid a 3 billion berry bounty each, but only Luffy was officially recognized as an emperor. Albeit accidental, Luffy got a drastic change in his wanted poster, showcasing him in his awakened state. For now, this has been every bounty Luffy had, but I'm positive he's going to get at least 1 or 2 more before the story ends. Anyways, that's going to do it for the video, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, then hey, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. It really helps me out, and the more people that watch this video, the more frequent I can upload more One Piece content. I'll catch you in the next one. Later.